And I mean, I feel so humbled and so privileged to actually be here with all of you. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and the stand that you've taken and the talks that we had. And Kristen, your amazing ability to convene such a gathering of, I call them resolutionaries, solutionaries coming from resolve about some of the world's biggest pressing problems and issues. So great privilege to be here. I mean, I'd love to just begin very quickly with my story and then go into the whole inspired leadership part. My born, brought up in India, my background became a corporate background, worked for most of my adult life in the UK, and then went through a series of situations where, we had the 208 dip and then we started coming out and nothing made any sense. I just felt like, okay, here we go again, So I was like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? So every time my businesses would succeed, there would be like a dip in my heart, and because I could see that the world was getting to a point where it was time for a new business model. And that is what was called. I went through a health crisis, went to Bali, and went through a series of spiritual awakenings, found my calling, and emerged from there. And that gave rise to the Poem Foundation, which stands for the Palace of Extraordinary Miracles. A miracle to me, I mean, that's my gig, connecting humans and humanity to the miracle that they are. A miracle being something beautiful occurs that makes your heart sing. Whatever happens, if your heart is beating, that is the song of the heart. It is singing. So it's a matter of connecting you to what is making that heart sing. And what I saw from engaging with that is that we are all born with choice as a modus operandi. We are born with dignity, which is an honoring of our own worthiness. And we are born with a unique ability that enables us to be a master and be at the source of our life as opposed to a victim. And it all begins with choice. Choice, we are always choosing. Even if you choose to make no choice, you are choosing that. Even if you choose to hand your choice over to a regime, to whatever it may be, whatever the circumstances may be, you are choosing that. So once you understand that, starting to become conscious and aware of the choices you're making really is, if that is a connection that I can somehow influence, that makes a huge difference. Dignity is honoring of our own worthiness. And it is from that honoring of our own worthiness, we automatically start honoring it in others. We honor it in nature. But when we don't honor our own worthiness, we give ourselves permission to destroy that in others. So a tree has value once it is chopped and becomes an asset. In the forest, it has no value. So forests are chopped, and lo and behold, everybody's impacted by this climate change crisis. And so it goes on. I also saw, as I was engaging in this whole dignity piece, that there are many changes that are occurring. And fortunately, I say fortunately because I choose to look through the miracle lens, what's making my heart sing, we've had the COVID phenomenon, that the entire world of whoever is alive here with some conscious awareness, we have experienced it. Good, bad, ugly, beautiful. It was something that really we could never have predicted before. That in itself reawakens cellular memories of uncertainty is certain, unknown is the known, change is constant, take nothing for granted is the modus operandi. There's a switch from survival instinct now to thriving instinct. There's a switch from just sustainable dialogue to one which is regenerative. There's a switch from fantastic results in business to what I call as extraordinary results. And extraordinary results, what I mean by that is three things. It's a combination of unprecedented performance, operational excellence, and transforming quality of life for yourself as the leader, for your stakeholders, which includes your family, and for the planet itself. And we as women, we really do operate from that extraordinary results framework, whether we do it consciously or we don't do it consciously. I mean, think about it, in terms of how you're juggling home, family, work, whatever conflicts that you may be dealing with, there is unprecedented performance that is called for from time to time. and operational excellence is a must, because otherwise, how are you going to handle all of this stuff? You may not be aware that you automatically have that propensity to create structures and systems. Quality of life, you may ignore yourself, but you certainly are making that occur for others. Now, once you understand that you have a cellular memory of being able to do that, you can give it a bit more structure, and you can then apply it anywhere and everywhere. So then I go into, okay, what makes that happen? And I realized that that is what I did in my corporate world. I had this huge study funded by the European Union and the Department of Trade and Industry to go out and study if inspired leaders could actually be born. And are they born or could they actually be developed? So I studied about 258 such leaders around the world. 54 of them only qualified as inspired leaders. And I distilled these 7 habits of inspired leaders. And I started, rolling out inspired leaders programs within corporations. Most of them were men. Now, fast forward to 2023, here we are, and I'm seeing that extraordinary results is the model. That is the business model. And it's time for me to take the 7 habits of inspired leaders and take it out to women and youth. I mean, it's so amazing to hear you, Ellie, talk about the 75%, because, I've taken that on, that we're going to have at least 1 billion people from the Poem Foundation who will be educated in these 7 habits of inspired leadership. Because each inspired leader, they know that they have only one job to do. And their only job is to create other inspired leaders who can take failure and not give a damn and keep moving forward. We as women, we have that natural ability as mothers, as daughters, as the work that you've been doing. We just really are quite masterful at that. So now let's develop those habits, We have a short amount of time. I'm just going to share some of those habits with you. So the first thing that inspired leaders do is they learn to fire on all cylinders. They do take living an extraordinary life really importantly. So when you're thriving on all cylinders, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental, you don't become pushed in any particular direction. You create your own ways of finding your center. You're always plugged into the context of why you're doing something. And you don't allow yourself to get completely engrossed or overwhelmed just by content. And that's a very important quality of an inspired leader. The second thing that they do as a habit is they know dignity is the foundation upon which they operate. But for dignity to be the foundation of their leadership, they acknowledge and honor their own worthiness first. And they see that in everyone else. And they create practices whereby they share that, in terms of giving people feedback. The third habit is when things go wrong, as a matter of habit, they actually get quite excited about when things go wrong because they see it as a breakdown. And the other side of a breakdown can only be a breakthrough. So there's a way in which they convert breakdown into a breakthrough. The fourth habit is that it's accountability. They're all about accountability. They are not afraid to say, you can count on me for this. And they're not afraid to ask, I want to count on you for this. Accountability versus responsibility, which in fact becomes burdensome and it inhibits your ability to respond. When people take ownership of, you can count on me for this, they will do whatever it takes. After all, unknown is the known, They have the fifth habit is they create games as opposed to engaging in blame. Now, games feels very flippant, but actually think about it. Any game, the intention is very clear. How you know that you won the game or lost the game is also, the measurable is also very clear. And you don't just let anybody play the game. You recruit and re-recruit the players. And then the players go and play the game. You make sure you mentor them and you coach them. So you can imagine, as an inspired leader, they operate with that construct. Game, not blame. They have habit number 6, they have a daily practice. Large, small, whatever it is. I was so amazed, a head teacher of a school in Tyneside and an amazing entrepreneur that the world knows out there in the Bay Area. Both of them, daily practice. And some of them had similar daily practices as well. They didn't even know each other, you know? And the seventh habit is they keep their finger on the pulse. Now, the interesting thing about finger on the pulse is you need to know what is your pulse. So the difference you're talking about in Iran or Kenya or the 75%, what's that pulse? That is yours to keep your finger on. You know, with that having been said, I just want to leave you with 3 questions to ask yourself before you just rush ahead with action. And I call them, they are like the superpower foods of, of how you show up as a leader. The first one is always ask, before you jump into action, is this mine to do? If it's not yours to do, don't give energy to that, because your energy can be applied somewhere else. The second question is, if I didn't have to, would I choose to do this? It's the most self-motivating way of moving forward. And the final question is, when you see something good that has taken place, however difficult a situation you may be in, I'm not one for putting the blinkers on. I'm one for acknowledging what's really going on. In amidst all of that, if there is something good that's happening, ask the question, how much better can it get? That breaks your own pattern of getting consumed into content. You can be in your center and really expand, go forth, multiply, and amplify as an inspired leader. Thank you.